Hi.
We're gonna get this technology right. Thank you for joining me this evening. Thank you. We'll probably have some more participants joining. I may have to turn my video off because of the bandwidth, but we'll see what happens. If it flows right, we'll keep the video up. Everyone should have a screen that looks like this, and there's a bar at the bottom that's your interface bar, where it says invite, share screen, chat, record. So make sure that your chat is turned on and that you put your name in so we can see everyone who's here. And we're going to do some work and use our chat to communicate with each other. And and if we could go ahead and mute our microphones, and then if we want to talk to each other, just unmute the mic so the background noise doesn't interfere with the learning. But anyway, welcome to Increased Learner Engagement with C.A.R.P. I'm Alicia Newton, and I'll be your facilitator today. And let's go ahead and get started. Let's see here. All right. C.A.R.P. So before, many of us know that C.A.R.P is an acronym. And this webinar is really about how do we more effectively communicate our messages, whether we're in a class, whether it is a presentation, whatever message that we are communicating, how do we do it better? And there is an acronym, C.A.R.P. It stands for contrast, alignment, repetition, and proximity. And when we apply these elements, we are going to increase learner engagement, recall, and by extension, learning. Our messages are more memorable. So I want you guys to think, we're going to do a little poll before we get started. And I want you to think about presentations or classes or advertising or some type of visual communication that was memorable. And then I want you to think about some that was not so memorable. Think about a blunder when you just saw something visually and it just shut your brain down and you were like, oh my goodness, something that distracted you or somehow disengaged you from the learning. And in the chat window, I want you to write down what that was. What did you see that was a visual blunder? So let me pull up the chat so I can see what you guys are writing. Too many words on a PowerPoint. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's a big one. That's a common one for sure. So when we think about that, why we put so many words on a PowerPoint, or why we have colors that are distracting, or the message and the PowerPoint were not in sync. I've seen that. You see a picture, and then you see some words, and the picture doesn't have anything to do with the words. And you're like, okay, what is that? So this is why C.A.R.P is so important. The research, there's a book out there by John Medina, and it's called Brain Rules. And he really talks about how vision trumps all of our senses. What we see, and in some cases, what we don't see, sends a message to our brain. And pretty much we say, okay, is what we're going to see, is it going to hurt me or is it going to harm me? Is it new or is it different? And it almost goes back to when we were on the Serengeti, when we were hunters and gatherers, and we needed to be aware of what was going on. So like, is that tiger over there going to hurt me or harm me? I better run. And so we still have that old brain. And so when we see something, that old brain assesses, Is it going to hurt? Is it going to harm? Is it new or is it different? And if none of those are present, the old brain kind of goes to sleep. So this is not what we want in learning. We want attention. We want engagement. We want interest, curiosity. We want to establish an environment ripe for learning, not sleeping. So vision is by far our most dominant sense, and it takes up half of our brain's resources. So our brain sees everything in pictures. And this is very interesting. When I was studying John Medina's work, he showed how even when we see letters, that our brain processes words as tiny pictures. And then it processes those pictures back into words that we have learned to apply meaning to. So I want you to think about that process for a minute. So we've all heard a picture is worth 1,000 words. So how do we really shift from communicating primarily with words, which is what we've been trained to communicate with, to using more visually stimulating content to reinforce and engage learners? So CARP is all about the visual. It's how we present the information and the rules that make that information memorable. So let's take a look at the 4 principles. So in CARP, the first principle is contrast. And basically, contrast merely means difference. We're looking for a difference. So how many times have you seen a presentation with a list of bullet points with little or no differentiation? Again, the old brain goes to sleep. I don't see anything different here. So we use contrast to create interest and to aid organization of the content. The next one is alignment. And in alignment, it just means that nothing is placed arbitrarily on the page. Have you ever seen a picture or a presentation or a slide that things are crooked or out of line? What do you think when you see that? It sends a message. You know, it sends a message that's unprofessional for one thing, and it's distracting. The third principle, which is repetition, tells us to repeat certain elements throughout our document to achieve a unified look. And it unifies the presentation as you go through it. And then the last one is proximity. And in proximity, it's about moving things closer together or further apart to achieve a more organized look. So on this slide, I chose to move proximity off to the side because proximity is about where it's placed. So we've already identified some of the things that we don't like when you see too many words on a page or too many distracting colors. I want you to think about how you've seen any of these principles applied, and use your chat window and tell us what you have seen on a visual that was memorable, that drew your attention. What C.A.R.P principle have you seen applied? So you can use your chat, or if you want to, there's not a lot of people on the call. If you want to unmute and share, you can do that as well. Where have you seen this done well? Right. Some of the content that we see in marketing, I think marketers have kind of figured this out on how they use color and contrast and proximity. Linda wrote, when a PowerPoint uses animations and transitions of slides, what the person is talking about, and that's also good. You know, Prezi is becoming very very well used in education and industry because there's movement. So again, it draws our attention. It stimulates our brain. Someone using photos in a slide presentation that match what the person is talking about. That's a big one, Anne. It needs to match. So yeah, great. So let's take a look at this next slide. I want you guys to tell me what is this, and what do you notice about this? Has anyone ever seen this before? PowerPoint, yes, PowerPoint intro to page. And what is it prompting us to do? The intro page or the following pages of PowerPoint is always, it's prompting us to enter text. It's a cue. Get ready for the presentation. Yeah, Linda, it's a cue. And it's a cue to enter text. It doesn't say enter a graphic, enter a picture. It prompts us for text. So there's no wonder that a typical PowerPoint actually has about 40 words per slide. There's actually a study, like 40 words per slide. So if I wanted to add visual interest to this, as the designer, there are certain steps. It's not like easy where you can start typing text. I can't start entering a picture. I have to go out, I have to select image, I have to do some things. So it's almost like we're funneled to add text and not so much pictures, graphics, using color, contrast, alignment. Now, yes, we can start out with a template, but a lot of times we start out with this blank page, and as a result, we see a lot of presentations that look like this. In business, in industry, this is what we see, right? So when you see a slide like this, what do you think if you're in a class or you're in a meeting? Yeah, it's a little overwhelming. Bullets don't kill, bullets don't kill, bullet points do. Right? Exactly. We get this glazed over look. The old brain is like, oh, I'll go to sleep. Wake me when you say in conclusion. So yes, the slide lacks any design priority. There's no contrast, there's no alignment, no proximity, and there's nothing to grab our attention. And so remembering that vision trumps all of our senses, and that it takes up half of our brain resources, the absence of CARP also disengages half of our resources. So here's another example. This is a recent meeting I was in, and where's the important information on this slide? So, if you look real hard and try to stay really, really focused, it's actually the last sentence. Net new revenue is really the most important information on the slide, or in this case, the lack thereof. But so CARP is important. Our ability to incorporate CARP is important. And marketers have pretty much figured this out a long time ago. So logos are a great example of CARP in practice. So look at the contrast in the Starbucks logo. Look at the alignment and the proximity principles in the Olympic rings. The contrast, the color contrast in the Firefox logo. Right? Fast food, they've already done 2 million studies. You know that that red and yellow actually has been proven to make you hungry. So just next time you're out and looking at the Wendy's and the McDonald's, and there's a predominance of red and yellow. And this is my personal favorite right here. I teach What's Your Superpower? Again, using color and proximity. And this one for Coca-Cola, great use of contrast. And Microsoft, great use of repetition. Pictures and colors grab our attention. And so the best visuals for learning are going to incorporate contrast, alignment, repetition, and proximity. Principles are true in marketing and they're true in learning. So what else did you notice about this slide? As this slide was coming up, what else did you notice? At the beginning of the slide, how did it start? Yeah, it was blank. It wasn't overwhelming. Good. It was a build, right? Because we also found out through brain research that the mind really can take in about 4 images at a time. So when you have more like this, the build helps us to really process the information a little at a time. So it's another great tip. If you do have a lot of information, to not put it all out there at the same time. All right, so let's look at this logo. All right, so what do you think about this logo? What's going on here? Looks crazy. Yeah, it looks a little crazy. Yes. This was the 2012 Olympic logo for London. And when it was unveiled, it was a dismal failure because of some of the things that you've listed. Too much going on. There's no flow. Yeah, you just saw Alicia. At least you saw 2012. I looked at this logo. I don't know how. I never saw 2012. I was like, oh, it does say 2012. So yeah, some claim this. There was a lot of talk about this. When this came out, some people claimed that it looked like some sort of comical sex act between the Simpsons. Apparently, one of these figures here looks like Lisa Simpson. I don't watch the Simpsons, so I don't know which one it is. But some people were outraged. They said it looked like a swastika, and some are, on the flip side of that, Iran said we're boycotting it because it spells out Zion. So regardless to the wide range of opinions about this logo, they really miss the boat because the learner has to figure out, what am I looking at? So I don't want my learners engaged in trying to figure out what I'm looking at. So it needs to be clear. The contrast was off. Contrast is about bringing something to the forefront. Nothing's at the forefront. The alignment was all wrong. There's no invisible line holding it together. The proximity, as you said, someone said, it just looks crazy. So CARP is not about using color or contrast or alignment or repetition arbitrarily. So that was there. So let's look at this slide and let's revisit our 4 principles. Contrast, it just means difference. Again, our brains are wired to notice difference. And you can contrast easily. This is what's so great about it. You know, we can use space to contrast. We can fill the space. We can empty the space. We can use color. We can use darks. We can use light. It's important that there's a focal point. What's the focal point on this slide? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So remember, when you're using this design element, that there needs to be a focal point. Contrast is probably one of the most powerful and one of the most easy to achieve. All right. So let's look at alignment. So in alignment, the important part here is that the whole point of alignment is that nothing on your slide needs to be placed arbitrarily. There needs to be a unity between the slides. Nothing should look random. Every element should be connected by an invisible line that makes sense. And so while repetition is about creating unity across a deck or across a publication, this principle, alignment, is about creating unity on one page. So we want to remember that. Which brings us to, actually, repetition. And repetition is one we can have fun with because it's about deciding what visual element you want to repeat. And so in these two examples, you have Marilyn repeated several times, but different colors, different backgrounds, but the repetition brings it together. On the example on the right, they've used shape and font for repetition. So repetition is simply the process of repeating elements throughout the document, presentation design to create a unified look. So while contrast is about showing differences, repetition is about subtly using elements to unify a visual and make it be viewed as part of a larger whole. And then you can use things like background, you can use fonts, you can use color. So you can use several items to achieve repetition. So this last one we're going to talk about, review once more, is proximity. And I don't think I built that right. But the principle of proximity is about moving things closer or further apart. And so the principle says related items should be grouped together so that they are viewed as a group. And the brain research kind of showed there was these eye tracking studies that showed how we view a page, and we really view it in a Z. The eye tracking studies found that we view a page in a Z format. So the first thing we look at is the upper left-hand corner, which I just thought was very interesting. I don't know why our brain does that, but it goes from left to the right side of the page and then down to the left bottom and then across. And so where we're placing things when we think about proximity, one of the things I try to think about is what do I want in that upper left-hand corner, because that's where the eye just normally goes. When we look at a page, learners should not be tasked with trying to figure out, which caption goes with which line or which subtitle goes with which text. We don't want to take away from the learner from making people think about the wrong stuff. So again, that's the last one. That is proximity. So contrast, alignment, repetition, and proximity are our 4 principles that stimulate vision, which engages learners. And now it's your turn to take a look at a couple slides and a couple logos. And I want you to, I'm going to undo your annotation tool at the top of your screen. There is if you hover up there, you'll see an annotate tool. And with the annotate tool, I want you to put a check mark or a circle or whatever annotation you want to choose the best use of CARP on these different images. And in your chat, I'd like you to write down why you chose what you chose. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that wasn't helpful. Hold on. There we go. Slideshow. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Under the annotate tool, there's a draw, and you can choose a circle or a square or anything. It won't let you select. Okay. You can type. Let me see. Enable attendee annotation. Okay. I don't know why that's not working. Oh, sorry. All right. Let me stop moving. So if there's problems with the annotate tool, you can just type it in the chat, what you like or don't like, or how you see CARP applied. And this is the chalk in the bottom picture. Yeah, yeah. What is it about the 6 steps to presentation success that you like, and which principles do you see?
I just see the it might be easier for me to talk right
Yeah,
now.
that's cool. Oh yeah.
Okay. That Z formation you were talking about in the 6 steps of to presentation success, it kind of starts at the top, and then even like the chalkboard has like a diagonal sort of slant to it. So you kind of follow it across the top and then come across the bottom.
Yeah, good, Anne. Yeah, great use of Z formation, absolutely. And the chalk is related to, when we think about presentations, so that's always great. Linda wrote, I'm going to go with Chick-fil-A because before you mentioned proximity, I never noticed the chicken. I love it. Yes. Again, that red for the fast food. I don't know why red makes you hungry. But yeah, great use of contrast, the red against the white. Yeah. Great. Which one of these are like bad? The pink font on the bottom, yeah. No contrast. You're right. The fonts on that last one is the gray, and none of that works. Absolutely. And too much on, yeah. What about that? What about the one up there that says questions? What's going on up there? I'm wondering what, yeah, right. What questions? This was a slide that was right. That's the photo has no relevance. Absolutely. This was the last slide of a very long presentation I attended a couple weeks ago. They had a lot of slides like those earlier bullet points. And at the end, this was the picture. And first of all, I have no questions because my brain is still asleep. And then there's nothing here to say I need to ask a question. So yes, our pictures need to match. This one over here on the lungs was a slide from an anatomy to e-learning program, and it's really quite good because there was text, but the student was able to click on the different parts of the anatomy, and it correlated very well. So I mean, you can have a lot of information as long as it's presented in a way that is engaging. They were able to engage with the material, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, you guys have it. Guys have it. I tell you, if you engage and use CARP in your learning modules, in your messages, your industry marketing, you're definitely going to increase recall and learner engagement. And 4 rules to really make our learning rock. So, any questions or comments before we wind this up?
Well, I just want to say, Alicia, I liked all the like the brain study facts that you put into your presentation. I think that was really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I appreciate you all joining me. And until next time, we're going to use CARP, or as my friend Nelson says, C.R.A.P. Use C.R.A.P. or your presentations are crap. But anyway, all right, guys, have a good rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
Alicia, we'll see you.
All right, bye-bye.